And when I do this, because we are broadcasting to the webpage, the official webpage of the municipality, and when I say this, you say, Viva Paredes de Couro, okay? No, I'm kidding.
Well, if you want.
So he started to understand what is the revolution. You are the captain and you say something, and he's already saying whatever you want.
Okay, we're live.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. It was a pleasure to have dinner with you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to start by thanking the University of Porto and professors. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. My name is Tiago Rodrigues. I'm a local. I'm from here, and I have a lot of stories from these surroundings. I can tell you a couple of them, but I'm here just to have a dialogue. I don't want to speak, and you are not just listeners. So please interrupt myself whenever you want. Every single time that you have a doubt, that you don't understand something, just let me know, and we can dialogue. And I think that we have half an hour, 45 minutes. If we are here 1 hour, it's not a problem. If we are here just 5 minutes, it's going to be complicated to justify. So let's have this dialogue. I grew up here in the main village, in the main town of this municipality, Paredes de Couro. And this particular place is very important to me, and you are going to understand why. My mother is was a primary school teacher. And when she left the university, the first place where she gave classes was in this place in 75. I was not even existed at that time because I was born in 77, and she was not married with my father, and she came to this house that you are right now to live, because it used to be the house of the primary school teacher. Electricity didn't exist in this particular place. The road didn't exist, but you know it right now, and it was completely isolated from the external world. And she grew up in Porto, in the middle of the big city, and so you can imagine, she was 21 years old. And when my parents married, the first house of our family was that one. And she gave classes in that primary school, the place where is right now our canteen. So this is not a random place to my family. This is very special because this was the first family house of my family. But I grew up here in Paredes de Couro, and when I was 15 in 92, I left my parents' house. At that time, it was quite normal. We already had secondary school here in the municipality, but I decided to study chemistry and biochemistry, and we didn't have that area here in the municipality, so I decided to go to Braga, 70 kilometers away. So I went there, and I used to spend the entire week in an apartment with university students, much older than me, and it was a great adventure. Then I spent 3 years in Braga, and then I was in big, serious problems when I was your age, approximately your age, because I wanted to study biology, but I didn't want, if I wanted to go to a kind of ecology world or a kind of biochemistry world or related area. And then I decided to go to biochemistry, and I moved to Coimbra. Do you know Coimbra? So it's a very old university. It was founded in 1290. Long time ago. It's a very traditional and old university here in Portugal. And I had a big adventure in Coimbra during 4 years. Then I was sufficiently lucky to go to Madrid. And that's the reason why I also speak a little bit of Spanish. And I spent 1 entire year in Madrid doing my lab work. The last year in biochemistry is dedicated to the lab. And I had I was sufficiently lucky to spend 1 year in 99, 2000. I think that you didn't exist at all at that time, but in 99, 2000, I spent 1 year in Madrid doing my Erasmus exchange program. Do you know where is Erasmus? All of you? No, you don't know? Well, Erasmus, right now you are in the UK, and you are not anymore in the European Union, but you are still within the Erasmus area. So Erasmus exchange programs, the opportunity to spend at least 1 year or 6 months or 3 months in another place during your university times or even during your secondary school time. So I had the opportunity to spend 1 year in Madrid. And then I had big doubts about what to do. And I wanted to do my PhD. I got a fellowship and I decided to dedicate my time to NMR. Do you know what is NMR? Nuclear magnetic resonance. Magnetic resonance is an approach, and you have spectroscopy and imaging. And if you like football, you are familiar with the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo and others now and then go to obtain a magnetic resonance image of their knees or their ankle, just to realize if they are okay or not. But everything started because one given day I was in a class in the university, and I was the only one that was able to answer a question from our professor of methodologies and methodological approaches about the green flash. Do you know what is the green flash? The green light or the green flash. It's the one that you are able to see when you have the sunset and you have scattering of the light. Do you know? Because you know that you are seeing the different colors of the rainbow. In a given moment, the sun that is yellow starts to be reddish, and you can see the scattering of the light. That's the reason why you see the blue sky. And in a given moment, sometimes you are able to see the green flash. And I was the only one that was able to, and then just memorize this green flash, and then tomorrow or this night or tonight, you can, well, you don't have mobile phones with you, so you cannot go to Google to try to search it. But after these 3 weeks here, you can when you arrive your places, you can see what is the green flash, because it's quite astonishing, and it's a good concept and a good scientific concept. But just to let you know, that professor in the university was very astonished with the fact that I was able to identify the green flash, and he invited me to start to go to his lab. He has a lab dedicated to neurochemistry and do you know what is neurochemistry? So do you know what is chemistry? Neuro is related with your brain. So a neurochemist is someone that studies the chemistry of your brain. And if you understand very well the physiology of the brain and also the physiopathology, you know the difference between physiology and physiopathology? But do you know these words? Physiopathology is related with the disease, and physiology is related with the absence of disease. So when you have a certain organ in your body and you truly understand how it works normally, and you understand how it works when it's not normal, when it's under the state of disease, you can realize how can you build, for example, new pharmacological approaches to treat that organ. So I was starting to understand what happens in some neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease. Have you heard about these diseases? Well, it's very important when you are trying to understand how to solve these problems that you understand how the chemistry of your brain is working. So I spent some time in Dallas. I saw a t-shirt from Dallas Mavericks. So I spent some time in Dallas in a university called University of Texas, Southwestern Medical School. And then in 2003, I wanted to go back to Madrid. So you can realize how fantastic was my time during the Erasmus exchange program. And I did my PhD. Do you know what is a PhD? Yeah. I did my PhD in the Higher Council for Scientific Research in Madrid. And I dedicated most of my work lab to try to realize how our brain works when you have one of these neurodegenerative diseases and what happens when you have a tumor. You know, because unfortunately, we all have someone or know someone that already have a tumor. Whenever you have a tumor, so your body starts to work in a different way. And most of your cells started to reproduce very rapidly. It's very important that we realize what is happening. So I was there in 5 years in Madrid, trying to understand what happens to your brain when you start to develop a tumor, and how we can start to identify which factors can we affect to interrupt the growth of that tumor. You know that you all knew that some people, sometimes they need to do radiotherapy or chemotherapy. And basically what you try to do is to attack the growth of the tumor, and you are trying to reduce the size of that tumor. So I did my PhD there in Madrid, and it was fantastic. And then I was very lucky because during all these years, I used it to come now and then to Paredes de Coura, mainly during the summer, to assist to that rock pop festival that I told you before, because you are able to work very hard when you are able to party very hard. So it's always important that you have the capacity to enjoy your life and to have some free time. Then when you are working very hard, you can obtain good results due to the fact that you rested a lot. So every single summer, I use it to come to Paredes de Coura or to other places with friends, but mainly here to spend some time. So I did my PhD in 2007 and tried to accelerate this story. Then I moved to Cambridge. Do you know Cambridge?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, why do you know Cambridge and you don't know Coimbra? This is very strange, because they are from more or less from the same time. You know that in Cambridge, we have, in the UK, you have Oxford. Everything started approximately in the 11th century. Then some students started to have some fights with some neighbors in Oxford, and they moved to a nearby city called Cambridge. And Cambridge, you have a river there called the River Cam, as it's normal to understand. And you have a bridge, that's the Cambridge. And it's a beautiful place where you have very intelligent people. And I was lucky because I went to a cancer research institute to start to investigate new ways to have a good diagnostic. Do you know what is diagnostic? What is diagnostic?
To identify properly what your tumor or
For what is your disease? Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, disease in general, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And why is it so important to have a good prognosis?
Because it's
Or a good diagnosis?
because of the medication, right? Or
Well,
the treatment.
The best way to have a good prognosis is to try to solve the problem, is to have a good diagnosis. So how do you usually deal with it using imaging when you have a tumor, for example? Usually what happens? If, for example, I have a cancer and I have a problem, usually I go to an hospital, I see a medical doctor, and he evaluates, I think that you have a tumor, and so they image myself in a non-invasive way. So they are able to see most of the times the size of that tumor. And this is the normal way to do it. They see the size and then they try one given treatment and they start the treatment, chemotherapy or radiotherapy, and sometimes it lasts 6 weeks or even 3 months or 4 months. And after that, what do they do again? They image again the patient and they see if the tumor shrinks, the size is and the volume is reduced. And if it's reduced, so it means that the treatment is working. But imagine that the treatment is not working. What is going to happen? It's too late. You know that when you do this kind of treatments, it's very costly. It costs a lot of money. You have a lot of secondary effects. Do you know that? The secondary effects. Sometimes you have a sickness, you have vertigo, you can lose your hair. It's very tough. And sometimes if it doesn't work, then it's too late. Sometimes you don't have time because it keeps growing, and sometimes it's too tough to restart this treatment. So I was working with some people and I was working with some colleagues. And do you know that in science, it works like that? You always work cooperating and working with other colleagues. And what you must do is try to identify if a given treatment is working or not after 6 weeks, 3 months, or 4 months, but you should identify if it's working immediately after the beginning of the treatment. So instead of evaluating the size or the volume of the tumor, you can start to identify how is the chemistry of the tumor. Because when you start a given treatment, sometimes the chemistry is not as aggressive as the one when you start the treatment. So I was able to identify with some colleagues, and we published a paper like the papers that you see that showed that we are able to see after 24 hours or 48 hours that sometimes not seeing the volume, but seeing the biochemistry, the chemical reactions, that the treatment started to work. So it was important because we were able to start the treatment, and 24 or 48 hours after that moment, you were able to realize it's working or it's not working. And if it's not working, you can restart with other treatment. Can you see the importance of this? If it's working, you just leave it. So, but this was what I did in Cambridge during this almost 6 years. You can tell the entire set of things that you did during 6 years in 2 minutes. Can you imagine? Science is like this. Sometimes you work a lot because most of the times in science, and this is very important because I'm sure that most of you want to be scientists one day. Most of the work of a scientist is failure. You fail, and you fail again, and then you fail again, and then in a given moment, things start to work. And this is very important because when you have negative results, they are also important to explain your positive results afterward. So, and you must be very resistant and resilient because you fail a lot, but then in a given moment, you start to, everything started to work. Then I'm going to tell you other episode of this entire story. I used to be a scientist. My science used to have some visibility because I published it in good scientific journals. And then I had the opportunity to come back to Portugal because a guy that most of you know, called António Costa, right now he's Prime Minister of Portugal, but he knew my science, invited me to come back to Portugal to run for elections representing this area of Portugal. And we were able to form government, and I was chosen to be Minister of Education in 2015, Minister of Education, and also in charge of sports. So I was also Minister of Sports. And just going back, why Minister of Sports? Because, well, one of the reasons. In 2012, when I was in Cambridge, I was very linked to the Portuguese embassy, and I was one of the members of the Portuguese Olympic team, not as a sportsman, but as the Portuguese Olympic attaché. The attaché is the one that links the team, the national team, with the local organizing committee. It's the guy making the bridge. So in London in 2012, in the Olympic Games, I was able to be with the Portuguese team involved in the entire structure, and I was able, for example, to participate in the Olympic parade in the Olympic Stadium. You know, that one of the open ceremony. But just that it was one of the most important moments in my life, as you can imagine, and I had the opportunity to meet a lot of national heroes. I was there with Telma Monteiro, with all these big guys. There, I had the opportunity to go to the Ministry of Education. I was in charge of the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Sports. Then I was lucky, being Ministry of Education, to be in charge of the educational policies. And I already spoke with some of you. I was in Canidelo inaugurating your sports center. I was in Lamego inaugurating a school. I was in some of your places, and it was very nice. But then, just to tell you that during 7 years, I was the Minister of Education, also in charge of sports and youth policies. I was the one in charge in the government to be in touch with the other with ministers to be sure that their policies, what they do, can protect young people. And that's the reason I was in charge of the youth. But I was very lucky because the ones that like football, I was, for example, in the European Championship final in Paris in 2016, because I was in charge of sports. I was in the World Cup in Russia. I was in the Olympic Games in Brazil. Again in the inauguration, in the opening ceremony, but in a lot of events. I was also in Tokyo last year in the Olympic Games. And right now, I'm not anymore Minister of Education, and I'm a member of the Parliament. And I'm in charge, I'm the president of the Committee of Energy and the Environment. So I'm the member of the Parliament that is in charge with other colleagues to take care of our environment and take care of the energy. And this climate change that we are speaking every single day, that we need to change the way that we obtain our energy to be more sustainable. And that's what I usually do in the Parliament. But just to finish, I'm still from here, from Paredes, Dakota. As you can understand, being from here, it's special, and this place is that house where you are sleeping was my first family house, and this is funny, even funny. I worked in cancer research during my entire life, and it was an exceptional journey, because when you are able to deal with cancer research and have your eureka moments, because you fail, and then you have an eureka moment, and you realize I'm working so hard, and right now all the things and all the opportunities and all the events that I had in my life, and I'm sure that one day you are going to have eureka moments, and some of the knowledge, know-how, and expertise was not coming from just the things that you learned in the university, but also from the things that you are learning in some of these talks and also with your colleagues. Because some of the things that you can learn and the things that you can build are not just in the university, in the classrooms, but are also, for example, during the coffee break or during a dinner with someone. Sometimes speaking with other people in the coffee break is extremely important. I just want to tell you a story. One of the most astonishing places of science in the world is now LMB in Cambridge, the Laboratory of Molecular Biology. And you have 20 Nobel laureates or so, just in that institute. And I think that I'm not exaggerating, but they are a lot. And some of the most important ideas came from the moment where they were in the coffee break. Because they were speaking to each other and speaking with people that traditionally don't work with them. And it's important that you speak with your colleagues, that you speak and that you make questions. You don't have silly questions. Sometimes you have silly answers, but you don't have silly questions by definition. You should ask everything. And it's very important that you have these moments. And I think that you are very lucky. You are from Pico, from Hungary, from Brazil, from Lamego, from Paredes, Dakota, Marbella, Galapagos, and the other places where you are from, all of you. And but you are lucky because right now you are here in Chadalamas, in this place, and this is a relatively new village. This village was from you saw the video, I think you watched the video. Everything started because this was a land without anything, and this new settlement was made by our right-wing dictatorship that realized that they wanted to have this land with people. And right now you have this legacy, this environmental area, that you are going to, and you are here to explore the universe, but mainly to explore your colleagues, to make friendships, and to realize that one day, maybe in 20 years, you are going to be here. I'm going to be at home watching your talk and you are going to produce a click in the brain of the new students of the AstroCamp of 2042, not 2022. And I hope that you enjoy this opportunity of being here 3 weeks. They are going to be very challenging because you are away from your families. I know that for most of you, it's the first time that you are away from your families. It's scared, and I'm sure that nights are very long, but you are very lucky because I know a lot of young boys and girls that wanted to be in your place, and you are the ones that are able to be here. And so I'm very proud, very honored to be here this night with you. And we are not going to make a revolution, but at least we are going to be able to smile and to speak. And right now, it's up to you if you have something to ask.